I knew Poppy would want to stay behind with the Snidgets. She truly had an infinite capacity to care for magical creatures. As for me, I needed some alone time and some air. She and I had accomplished a great deal together, and this recent outing felt exhilarating and fulfilling. But with each crescendo and wave of emotions, there was always the post-adventure fatigue. I knew where I needed to go. No flew flames this time. I needed to feel the rush of wind through my hair. It took some time before I made it to the South Poidsea coast, but the longer trip was welcomed. Flying had a way of helping me forget my troubles. You had to be both present and empty. No time to be distracted, but also you couldn't perseverate on an issue. You had to keep your gaze ahead, because a gust of wind could change your whole course. In less than a quarter hour, I could make out my favourite spot, a small, humble cottage that opened onto the southwest coastline. Just on the ridge, I could simply stand and bask in my senses. Nature's own music included a symphony of the ocean's waves, with a faint mewing of seagulls. For the appetizer, there was a scent of salt water, with a hint of fresh pine, all topped with a gentle breeze to brush my eyelashes and a ray of sun to caress my cheek. I don't know how long I stood there, but I needed it, mostly to reflect on what had happened. Not just with the keepers or the Snidgets, but with this whole year. It was already late spring and so much had transpired. To think I started learning spells of first and second years and was finally caught up to wizards my own age. It defied expectations and sense, and yet something else remained on my mind. I didn't dare speak it, for fear of jinxing the outcome. The irony, a wizard superstitious of a wish. At this point, I knew I was ready to go to the common room. I could use some well-earned rest. One quick use of blue flames, and I was back at Hogwarts. I love magic. I didn't realise I had more of a spring in my step to get to breakfast and my classes. Amazing what a quality night of sleep will do for the body. I found my attention drifting more than once, but still managed to stay on task. Luckily, no history of magic classes had been scheduled that day. Even other students were beginning to get spring fever, so attention spans were running thin. I was rather ravenous during breakfast and lunch. Fighting poachers really did stir the appetite. Additionally, all the hiking combined with the occasional calisthenics added up. I had just finished devouring a pear for dessert when I noticed Poppy near the fireplace. She seemed pensive, probably indicated from her index finger and thumb neatly encasing her chin. Trying not to seem like a complete slob, I cleaned up before heading over to meet her. As soon as I entered her peripheral field of vision, her demeanour lit up.
Just the person I was hoping to see.
I always felt accomplished seeing her mood lifted. I chuckled. I see Doran finally convinced you to leave the Snidgets. She was beaming.
If anyone can keep them out of poacher hands, it's the centaurs.
But then she softened her tone, if that was even possible. She already spoke with a delicate charm, but it was clear she was being extra vulnerable.
And I wanted to thank you. When the poachers ambushed us, it was nice not to face them alone.
I knew how difficult this was for her. I can't imagine the inner strength it would take to leave your family, but in her heart, she knew she didn't want to follow their path. It was something I truly admired about her, and despite all that she endured, she remained a kind, gentle witch to every creature and person she encountered. I ended up matching her soft inflection. Of course, it's the sort of thing friends do for each other, isn't it? This seemed to please her.
I suppose so. I am glad you came to Hogwarts. It's already been my best year. I wouldn't want a repeat of Horntail Hall, of course, but I did enjoy the 3 broomsticks. I had no idea how lovely it was there.
This was an absolute shock to me. Had you never been to the 3 broomsticks? She seemed to be wistfully reminiscing.
I used to spend most of my time with Highwing. And well, I don't know how Sirona feels about hippogriffs popping in for a butterbeer. Highwing's the only one I would have gone with. Or Gran, of course.
I couldn't help but chuckle again. Highwing is nice company, but perhaps it's time to add a few more friends to your circle. But I believe she had. At the beginning of the year, Highwing was probably her main companion, but Natty, Ominous, and even Sebastian warmed up to her. It probably helped that I spent copious time with all of them. If I trusted her, they all seemed to fall in agreement, and even affectionately referred to her as Peppy. Not derogatory, but simply because she was optimistic. It originated from a faulty Christmas scarf exchange. I drew her name as the recipient, and I suppose my handwriting was so dismal for the gift order that poor Augustus Hill deciphered it the best he could. So, the stitching read, Peppy. I was beyond mortified when she discovered it, and I had no qualms about going directly to Hogsmeade to correct my mistake. But before I could, Ominous physically examined the scarf, detecting my embarrassment. He carefully traced the embroidered letters with his index finger.
Peppy. Well, I suppose there are worse nicknames.
I stuttered. It wasn't supposed to say that. Natty chimed in.
But I think it suits her quite well. She certainly enjoys her time with magical beasts, and they are always happier after her dutiful care.
Sebastian had a brief moment of earnest agreement.
Works for me. Peppy it is.
It was short-lived, however. His sarcasm quickly resurfaced as he playfully snickered.
You're stuck with it now. If you don't like it, you know who's to blame.
This was followed with a mocking finger gesture towards me. Then he gently tapped Poppy's shoulder.
Tell your friend that on top of extra professor assignments, there needs to be calligraphy lessons, though I doubt it would be of much help.
This was met by poorly stifled laughs from the whole group, me included. Sebastian was at times an ass, but he knew where to draw the line. Besides, what's the point of close friends if they don't tease you? After the laughter died down, Poppy re-examined the scarf with a new perspective. What seemed to be an error now became a badge of affection. I remember she stared at the gift for what seemed like ages, turning it over multiple times in her hands before clumsily stating,
Thank you.
I may have been imagining, but her eyes were slightly misty. Yet, that may have simply been from laughing at my poor penmanship. But back to the moment. She seemed more light-hearted now.
I am starting to see the appeal of, human friends. It was nice to talk about my parents and Gran with someone, and share Highwing.
I wondered how her family was doing. I'm sure her name had become quite a hot topic among isolated poacher communities. Thus, I was cautious with my next question. I don't suppose you've heard anything from your parents, have you? She did give a reassuring answer.
I haven't, but I'm perfectly fine with that.
That was all I wanted to ask, at least for now. She'd only recently shared her family history of poaching, so we didn't need to press further. Thus, I decided to switch subjects. Does your Gran know we found the Snidgets? This immediately brought her into a more ebullient mood, speaking faster with each word.
I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told her everything. She was livid that I'd been anywhere near the poachers, but she confessed that she was rather envious about the Snidgets.
I was reluctant to say goodbye, but I didn't want to keep her from the rest of the day. It has all been a pleasure, Poppy. Do try and stay out of trouble. This was met with a cackle.
Don't know that I can. We've taken on poachers twice now, successfully. I rather think you've helped me develop a taste for it.
She then migrated to a more playful tone.
And with centaurs as allies, I might actually go looking for trouble.
I couldn't help but shake my head. Clearly, I was a bad influence on this sweet girl. I was just about to leave when she piped up.
You and I should meet for a butterbeer soon. Perhaps Highwing can join us?
And I may or may not have detected a slightly higher pitch in her voice during her last words. I figured it wouldn't hurt to immediately accept, and I inquired with a bashful head tilt. Would you want to go this afternoon, after Magical Beasts? Poppy grasped her hands behind her back, rocking on her toes and heels.
That would be lovely.
I grinned, but I must warn you, Sirona says there's a beast fee for anything larger than a niffler, so if we do bring Highwing, you'll have to cover that cost. This was appropriately met with a sassy eye roll before she waved and headed back into the castle corridors. Sirona coyly welcomed us.
Folks have noticed less of Rookwood and Harlow's lot about, not to mention a significant reduction in poachers. You two wouldn't happen to be involved in this abrupt improvement?
I simply shrugged, feigning ignorance, but I couldn't hide a muted, cheeky grin. Poppy eyed me during this, and probably had the worst suppressed smirk. What a mess. Just two horrible liars, smiling through our teeth. Sirona chortled.
I thought as much. Well, do let me know if you find out who's responsible. It's been a welcome change. Wizards and witches feel a bit safer across the hamlets.
We had a sense of giddiness, but there was a dramatic mood shift after ordering butterbeers. Poppy almost seemed forlorn. She was entranced and fixated on her butterbeer after barely sitting down, and her cheery demeanour seemed to be evaporating with each sip. I didn't want to push, but I was curious. Poppy, are you all right? She put on her brave face, and a smile warmed her features.
Oh, it's nothing terrible. I should be happy. My gran is safe. The Snidgets will be well protected, and there are fewer poachers. It's just...
Now I was even more curious. Just what? She laughed nervously.
Well, if this was my best year, I'm not ready for it to end.
I smiled. The year isn't over yet. That seemed to cheer her up. She clinked her pint with mine, and we playfully elbowed each other, lamenting how we dreaded our looming O.W.Ls. Worst of all by far would be history of magic, or divination. I loved sipping tea, but reading tea leaves was completely different. I begged Poppy not to tell Professor Onai or Natty. I adored both of them, but I struggled in that subject comparative to charms or even potions. As we finished our drinks, I had an idea. Come on, I want to show you something. One flu flame later, we were gone. Poppy politely scanned her surroundings before we exited the cottage. Once she caught the vista, she seemed pleased with the location.
Merlin, look at the view. The sea is gorgeous.
I don't think she'd been here before, or at least not with me. Who knew what wondrous flights Highwing had taken her on? Still, I'm glad she decided to join me. I wanted to show you this place. It's one of my favourite spots from this year. I visited after we rescued the Snidgets, but I would also retreat here after an assignment or random favours for a hamlet. It's where I come to find peace. She slowly made her way to the hillside, wind gently blowing her hair back. It felt like watching an artistic portrait. Then, we both spotted two hippogriffs flying over the coastline, no doubt a couple. We continued watching their aerial acrobatics, and I stepped closer towards her side. She didn't back away or try to create space. In fact, she moved closer towards me. My left and her right hand gracefully glided towards one another until our fingers intertwined. She looked up at me and was about to say something. Suddenly, a gruff voice cut through our tender moment.
What have we here? Little Poppy causing troubles.
I didn't even blink. Hands moved, a deft flick, and two wizards were disarmed by both our Expelliarmus. But Poppy sent the finishing blow of a depulso, launching both thugs down the hillside. She had barely turned towards me with a satisfied smile, clearly proud of her poacher elimination skills, when her eyes widened. There were more of them.
Instinct again took over. Our Protego stopped the incoming expulsos. Our KO brought the poachers within range. Poppy's Descendo easily concussed them. Then, our combined Confringo, Defindo and Bombarda finished them off. Our eyes were focused, scanning the hillside and constantly moving to reduce any blind spots. It's as if we were fencers, circling in a protected back-to-back formation, while remaining poised for the next spell. But it was already over, in less than 10 seconds no doubt. Might be a new dueling feat. I need to remember and thank Professor Hecate and Sebastian for the dueling club. Also, I made a mental note to never seriously upset Poppy. She had a wicked conjure rate with spells that packed a punch. Poppy faced me and sheathed her wand as I gradually did the same. Then, she outstretched her right arm in front of her, palm open, as if to stop or halt something. Why did this look familiar? It suddenly dawned on me, and I cracked a subtle smile. It was that same tenderness she showed when trying to calm the Hebridean black right after we returned the egg. It felt hypnotizing. She had this glacial, almost imperceptible movement, closing the distance ever so slowly towards my face. Her touch was light, ethereal, no more noticeable than a breath. Her middle finger first found my nose, then my cheek, and then my neck, my clavicle. ultimately ending at my sternum, all with the same soothing touch. My right hand responded in kind, not exactly as ginger or soft, but echoing the steady, measured pace, first on her nose, then her cheek, then her hair just before resting on the nape of her neck. I purred. "What did you want to say?" before we were interrupted. Poppy slightly fumbled her words.
I was going to say that I really am glad you came to Hogwarts.
Her hand didn't move from my chest. I may have even detected a slight tremble, but the pressure was becoming firmer as she used her whole hand. I nodded with a smile. "You mentioned that before, but I believe you were going to say something else." She didn't respond immediately. She was about to open her mouth as if to speak, but began to turn red as she looked down, her hand releasing from me. Rather than wait for her gaze, I leaned forward and whispered into her left ear, "Well, I can tell you something." I waited for her response, but received only cautious breaths. No denial. Then, her head tilted upwards, still red. I still maintained that calculated pace so as not to spook her. In time, my mouth was inches away from her ear. I could feel the warmth as I breathed. "I fancy you." After those last syllables, I pressed my lips ever so delicately on her left cheek. Even with the briefest of durations, I could feel the temperature and slight perspiration from her skin. Once her gaze found mine, she regained herself and rediscovered her voice, though slightly timid.
I fancy you too. I just didn't...
I was locked into her caramel brown eyes and nodded. "I know, it's new, isn't it?" She nodded, but then more confidently placed her arms behind my neck and pecked each of my cheeks, after which she stared up at me, smile beaming from ear to ear. No words were needed at this point. We felt suspended there, as if arresto momentum was cast on the world around us. Then, slowly, our bodies migrated closer. I could see her pupils dilate, but I could also feel our heartbeats speeding up, and I could detect the scent of aged cinnamon and apples. It's as if I was drinking in the very air around her. Even at a snail's pace, our lips found one another. They weren't rushed or laboured, but it felt real. It was a warm and beautiful melding of flesh and comfort tenderly encased in one another. Once our lips disengaged, she seemed to be more relaxed, discovering her sass once again.
This is a bit different than care for magical creatures, but I can't say I'm complaining.
Anne gave me another cheek peck and a wink. To which I retorted, "Well, you remember, I did need lots of practice from that first day of Beasts class. I suspect this will be no different." Then that mischievous smile crept across her face, and she more aggressively pulled my face towards her. I had zero objections. This banter continued for a bit, mixed with lovely exchanges of lips, hand squeezes and pauses, but at some point we just ended up holding each other. I kissed the top of her head. "Poppy, you're always caring for others, but who takes care of you?" I could feel her squirm a little after that comment, but it was productive squirming, as if she was trying to burrow her head into my chest even more. Not only that, her hands were a belt, cinching tighter and tighter around my waist. I continued, "You don't need rescuing, but I think everyone could use a little care from others." A brief silence followed, and then she hummed,
You're just so... This whole year for me, I mean, you were...
She may not have finished her sentence, but once she looked up at me, her eyes told the rest. I softly grazed the tip of her nose with mine. "An augury at noon? In the desert?" She let out a giggle.
Something like that.
I was able to register her cheeks emitting a faint pink beneath her freckles, right before her lips found a home in mine. We stayed on that hillside until the sun began to set. Between the dips in conversation and purely enjoying the scenery and company, she cooed.
What happens now?
I did my best to muster my senses. "Well, we have our O.W.Ls coming up." Even as I uttered those words, she elbowed me.
You know what I mean.
I pondered for a moment what a better answer would be, But with Poppy, I knew she'd just appreciate sincerity. The new plan is the old plan. Perform spectacular on our O.W.Ls, celebrate with Butterbeers and the gang, then maybe take a couple's flight on Highwing. She perked up.
Couples?
I playfully shushed her with my finger. Yes, sweeting. I knew that she simultaneously loved and hated when I called her that. Yes, a couple's flight on Highwing. Then perhaps freeing more creatures from poachers before you leave. Schedule a summer trip where I visit you and your gran. And maybe learn a few new spells. I don't know, that's all I've got so far. I'm sure we'll fill in the rest as we go. You know I like to improvise. She squeezed my elbow a bit tighter before contently murmuring and partially yawning.
Sounds brilliant.
And concluded with a peck on my shoulder before nuzzling closer. It was time to head to the castle before we dozed off and would have to dodge prefects being out past curfew. I slowly rose to my feet and once standing, offered my hand. Shall we? And we were off. We briefly made it to supper, if you could even call it that. For once, I don't remember eating that much. We just were talking and lamenting about how far behind we were in assignments. Turns out, we were procrastinators in the same subject of divination. I didn't find this too surprising. After all, we both had similar philosophies about one's birth versus one's choices determining your fate. And surprising to absolutely no one, she clearly spent exorbitant amounts of time on her favourite subject. Between munching on snacks and sips of tea and cider, the room began to dim. Students began breaking off to their dormitories, and we thought we should do the same. She didn't need an escort back to her common room, but I welcomed any reason to spend more time with her. She appeared to feel the same. As we passed the statue of the Hogwarts architect, I couldn't help but curse the short distance of the downward winding staircase to the cellar. Past the house elf recipe display and the pear portrait, we finally reached the Hufflepuff barrels. There's a required rhythm with tapping the barrels to enter, but we both simply stood there, staring at the entrance. I squeezed her hand reassuringly. It's okay, we'll fly Highwing soon, ran out of time today. She squeezed my hand before answering.
It's a date.
She released my hand and was about to enter the common room. Then she abruptly whipped 180 degrees and launched into a tackling hug, nearly knocking the wind out of me. Poppy, did you need something? She burrowed deeper into my chest, pulling me closer.
Just taking care of one more magical creature.
Then, just as swiftly, she looked up and gently brushed her hair behind her ear. Even in the dim cellar lighting, her cheeks and freckles had a rose hue.
See you in Charms tomorrow?
I nodded, I'll be there, and gently kissed her forehead. She broke away and slowly sauntered to the barrel entrance again. After the correct knock, the barrels parted to reveal an entryway. She took one more glance at me, and it made me wish for a pensive. I wanted to revisit and relive that moment over and over as often as I could. It was a smile that could melt your heart and make you feel warm and safe all at once. I mouthed, "Good night, Poppy," to which she mimed,
Good night.
Tomorrow would be a new day, and we both couldn't wait for it.